I'm Jim Collison and live from the Gallup campus here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Theme Thursday, recorded on January 29th, 2015. Theme Thursday is a Gallup webcast series that dives deep into the CliftonStrengths Finder themes, one theme at a time. Today's theme is connectedness. If you have questions, comments, or contributions during the webcast, we do have a live chat room that's available. Many of you have already logged into that as well. Best way to get questions and comments into the program as well. No account is required for Chatwing. Just choose the guest option, put your name up there. It's always great to have your name. Otherwise, you get guest 1, 2, 3, 4, and we don't know who you are. And so join us down there as well. If you're listening to the recorded version, or if you need custom strengths coaching solutions for small, medium, or large organizations, we're in that business. You can contact us here. Just send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. There is also a form right to your, I think it's over here if I'm pointing in the right direction. There's a form down there. You can fill that out as well. We'll get right back to you as well. Don't forget to visit the Gallup Strengths Center. A lot of great resources out there for you for all your coaching resources and training needs. You can also catch the video in both streaming and now downloadable audio for offline listening. Very key if you do a lot of commuting, trains, planes, or automobiles, because you can download this to your phone and listen to it on the road. We have all those links and everything's available. Really the one link you need to go to for that, coaching.gallup.com. You don't have to be a coach to be on the coaching page. Just head out there. We have all kinds of helpful links for you as well. Kurt Liesfeld is our host today. Kurt works as a senior learning and development consultant here on the riverfront. He's coming in from home today, and we're having a little video issues with him. But Kurt, great to have you on another Theme Thursday.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Jim. Thanks again for hosting this and getting us together. Today we're going to be thinking about the theme connectedness, and when I saw this on the calendar, I knew immediately who I wanted to get on as a guest on this show for connectedness, and it's Mary Sue Ingraham. Mary Sue is a certified coach. She was a participant in one of the early programs we did in D.C. and got to know her a little bit there, and really kind of saw the way that connectedness worked in her life and in her work. So certainly wanted to get her on. So we'll hear from Mary in a little bit. But Mary, it's great to have you on the call.
Thank you.
Let me just kind of start with this theme overture, my kind of spin on what I have kind of seen clinically in connectedness, and I think this may be one of the themes that has a kind of broadness to it that's hard to really kind of put in a box, and I certainly don't want to do that, but it has lots of different factors. How I have kind of tried to summarize in just a brief statement the essence of connectedness is this: it's a global spiritual perspective that produces an integrated holistic practice. That's a pretty short summary, and I'm not sure you can actually summarize connectedness in a small phrase, but that's my shot at that. In terms of words, I think words are so critical. A word that I often hear is integrator, bridge builder, environmentalist, humanitarian, communitarian, unifier, social advocate, seeker are all kind of nouns, some adjectives, and they kind of go along with these: integrating, seeking, spiritual, perceptive, mystical, philosophical, counseling, listening, holistic, compassionate. Lots of words, but you kind of get the sense that this one, in a way, kind of stands alone in some ways from other themes. This theme is really a part of the relationship domain, and it has to do, many times I think it has to do with people, but I don't think it's just about people. I think it involves integration in lots of different ways. I think the balcony of connectedness is this: spiritual, doesn't sweat the small stuff. Sometimes it's people who have strong faith, and this can be religious faith, it can be some other kind of faith. Always looking at the big picture and helping others see the purpose to some degree behind that bigger picture. I like to I think themes get clearer when you kind of compare them and contrast them with other themes, and I happen to have connectedness fairly high on my profile, but I also have analytical, and those two are two themes that kind of rub up against each other. There's a kind of a friction. Analytical is a bit more about measurement and understanding and kind of proving the truth. And to some degree, I think connectedness has a thinks that there are some things that are actually beyond understanding. If that it's something, people who might have some ability to accept something that they don't completely understand. It's about mystery. I also like to think about these themes in packages, and I think these connectedness is in a couple of packages. Number one, I think it's a part of a values package. And I see, a lot of times I see these three themes: belief, responsibility, and connectedness together. And I think they have what they have in common are kind of values. Belief is really about someone who values an important cause or purpose. Responsibility is someone who values their commitments to other people. And at the core of connectedness, I think, is someone who values humanity, people. The people in the broadest sense of the word, in that global sense of the word. Another package that I think that connectedness is a part of, it's a package I call the time package. And it's context, which is about the past time, adaptability, which is about the present time, futuristic, which is about future time, and then I think connectedness really is to some degree beyond time and the links between time. There's a kind of it embraces all of those things. It embraces the past, the present, and the future. So connectedness is kind of a connector of time, if you will. And then finally, I think connectedness really is also part of what I would call either a group or a collaboration package. It includes themes like harmony and arranger. Let's see if I can find it here. Harmony and arranger, includer would be a part of that, consistency. But I think connectedness also brings that. It's not us and them. It's us, we. It's the group. It's the whole. It's that holistic part. They see and understand the bigger picture of theme. Some of the kind of things that people are often kind of interested in is how often do people have this in their top 5? We have 12% of people in our present database have connectedness in their top 5. So that's kind of ranked about 12th. It's the 12th most frequent theme. A little more than 1 out of every 10 people, or 1 out of 10 out of every 12 out of every 100 people have it. The theme that's most likely paired, and this is really not a high percentage, so what that says to me is that I think connectedness can really be paired with a lot of things. But the theme that's the highest is empathy, which makes some sense. It's a sensitivity to human emotion and the value that connectedness brings and has for humanity. It makes some sense that there would also be a sensitive to that. I think part that really separates humans from other creatures is this emotional quality. One of the things I always like to kind of think of, maybe some literature or music. It's interesting, yesterday in the USA Today, I heard that this is the 30th anniversary of that song that was kind of put together by Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie, "We Are the World," which was this, it was a kind of interesting fundraising activity to U.S. for Africa. It was about poverty, but it was bringing together all of these musicians and artists, and they sang this song, but it really is a kind of a great connectedness theme. We ought to probably have that as our background music today. The other thing that I want to just share is it's a poem that I really like. It's written by an Englishman by the name of John Donne, and it's called "For Whom the Bell Tolls," and I'm going to just read this because I think it has a connectedness feel to it as well. "No man is an island, entire of itself. Each is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away from the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manor of thine own, or if thine friends were. Each man's death diminishes me, for I am involved in mankind. Therefore, send not to know for whom the bell tolls, for it tolls for thee." I think that is John Donne didn't take the strings finder, but I think he probably had that kind of perspective. So with that overture, I want to get Mary Sue involved in this conversation. Mary Sue, first, why don't you just introduce yourself a little bit to the group and let them know a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Well, it's wonderful to be here today, and thank you so much for having me. I live in Arizona. I'm actually in California right now working with the group here, but I'm a leadership consultant and Gallup-Certified Strengths coach, and I love working with leaders around purpose and finding the common ground to work toward the common good.
Tell me just a little bit about what your connectedness looked like. I had a pretty broad, painted a pretty broad picture. What parts of what I said or what other parts do you see in how this theme affects you?
Well, a number of thoughts are going through my mind. For me, my connectedness I experience as almost being able to see an overlay of lines pointing between people, cultures, ideas, thoughts, research. It's as though there's an overlay of connections, and so that's been true of me my whole life. I will say when you kind of did your one sentence thing as you let off, you talked about a global spiritual perspective, and I will say that you know, kind of moving on to thinking about some other people who have connectedness, I have found that some people don't resonate with that spiritual perspective, but instead their lens through which they see connection may come through an understanding of the natural world, of cause and effect, of even something like the butterfly effect that comes out of mathematics, where mathematicians who do weather modeling see that even the beating of a butterfly's wings can actually cause disruptions in weather patterns. So they may have a lens that sees it more through the physical world and cause and effect, but there are many who also have that spiritual lens on it. But I would like to point at what those two have in common, and that is that ability to see connections that can then be leveraged toward powerful purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me, I mean, you are you work with organizations and individuals and teams, and I was thinking about. Sometimes I think people wonder about the professional benefit of this, and I thought about asking you that question, and I think you're probably not a person who probably compartmentalizes your life quite as much. I don't think people with context often do that, but where do you see, what are some examples of how this theme has helped you professionally as a coach, as you have helped people improve their performance, do things better?
Well, I think with that lens that's able to see connections, I'm able to see patterns in the story that a client is telling me or that I'm perceiving in an organization. And by seeing those patterns, we can then we can look as we're charting that path forward as they're trying to figure out where they want to go. But I would say that the single most significant thing that I use this for is in working with a leader and with a leadership team to find that common ground that typically in an organization is its mission, its purpose. What is it that everyone should be aligning their strength toward? What is the impact that organization wants to have in the world? What is the purpose to which they're aligning their knowledge, skills, experience, collaboration, strengths? So finding that common ground and then marshaling all the forces to help bring that into reality. That's really the piece that I lean into this the most with.
Yeah, I mean, that comes through loud and clear. You have a real attraction to purpose and cause and mission, and so that's why I think it's a values theme in that way to some degree. I think that's something that I think some people with belief have kind of that kind of commitment to a cause. But I think you've got the ability maybe to see the purpose when people within an organization might not always be clear about that. Do you find that people are always clear about purpose? Or is that something the way you help people?
It's interesting. I was working with a fabulous organization yesterday here, and they are alive with purpose, yet they have not previously had great success at clarifying in words exactly what was the purpose that was already alive and well. And in a process of engagement with them, we were able to find those words that then help provide that clarity internally, but also can drive external messaging. But yes, I mean, I think that sometimes people don't have a sense of a purpose. And I would say that all the research that's been done in psychology on happiness, I would think there's tremendous amount of research that bolsters the fact that every human life, people want to be able to feel that their life mattered, that they were doing something that had some purpose. And organizations need purpose as well. So I think that we are hardwired to need to have a purpose. And being able to help people find that purpose and align all of their attributes toward that and their energy and their passion is just a wonderful thing to get to do.
Yeah, no kidding. Tell me, when did you first become aware of the part of you that we call connectedness? I mean, how did that evolve in you as a person? When did you notice it? Or was there a time when you became aware of this part of you?
Well, I didn't have a word to put to it, but I think if I look back into my childhood, and I've thought deeply about this, what were some early signs of that? I will say that as a child, I was very sensitive to division. I mean, nobody likes war, but I was deeply troubled by war. And I was deeply troubled by racial divisions that were taking place in the South when I was growing up in the South. Those kinds of divisions exist all over the world. I don't point to the South alone. So I was sensitive to division, but I was also fascinated by other cultures. And my uncle went to do a Fulbright at the University of Cairo, and his family went with him. And I remember they sent us a package of things from Egypt. And I was in elementary school, and these artifacts were so spectacular to me because they were these tangible things that were from this other culture, you know, another side of the world. So I think that interest in people of other cultures and that sensitivity to division and seeing the common experience of humanity and wanting to see that work collaboratively.
You know, as I listen to you, I know one of your other signature themes is input, which has a more tangible nature to it. I think connectedness is not totally spiritual, but the integration of those two themes, I could kind of hear that one kind of going on as you were talking about artifacts and the stuff in the box from Egypt. I mean, interest in the people of Egypt, but also the culture and a kind of a broad appreciation of those particular things.
So true.
What's hard about having connectedness? What's the challenge that you face, or is there anything hard?
I think the challenge for those of us who have connectedness is to be able to find the way to make it the most productive, so that it's not just a way of being, but that it's actually contributing and a way of doing. And so raw connectedness, I think, can look like, oh, let me just tell you about all the connections I see. And believe me, my friends and family could tell you they've sat through me doing that a lot. But that more robust form of connectedness is, how do we take the connections we see and use them in a way that can help move something forward? So if you think about it, a lot of times ideas are in silos. So I think one of the attributes of connectedness is it can bridge ideas that are in one silo with ideas that are in another silo and lead to innovation. I think that people can be in silos within organizations. There can be us versus them mentalities within a single organization. People with connectedness can find ways to work across that divide, build that bridge span so that they can be collaborating toward what the mission of the organization is. So I think leveraging it fully to help move something forward is what our challenge is. And it's our opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. You know, you've got that great picture behind you there of I think it's the Brooklyn Bridge. And I'm a fan of bridges. I collect bridges, so I want to thank you for that. But I think I like to think about who looked at a place and said there ought to be a bridge there? The need for a bridge, and the problem when there is no bridge. You think about, how do you get between Brooklyn and Manhattan without a bridge? People had to get a boat, and that was it made life better when those were connected. So
that's right. Well, and I think about what Jim is doing here today. I told him before our broadcast today that he is creating a virtual bridge through the technology that he puts together so that we can have a global conversation around the theme of connectedness, so that we can ignite the strengths and the productivity of people around the world. The internet itself is a bridge that we can then leverage toward positive outcomes.
Yeah, no, it's getting all of these, integrating all of these systems, the educational systems, the technological systems, the political systems. I just think about the way the human body, I think, is a great example of integrated systems, how one system affects the other system. And I think that's hard stuff to see. And I think that's something I've noticed about people with connectedness is the hard part. Maybe it's my own connectedness, is that sometimes I see things that I don't think other people see, and I think that we have that in common with people that have futuristic. They get this vision of what could be, and they can see it, but being able to say it in such a way that other people see it. I get the sense that you've kind of figured out how to do that a little bit as you start to see silos and purpose and people moving in the right direction. How do you get people, how do you use this information, this perspective that you have? So I'm really thrilled that you seem to have a way to express that as well.
Well, and I love that word, perspective. And when I was flying across the Sierras yesterday, flying from Arizona to California, I was looking down, and the Sierras are just covered in snow. But I was thinking that there's that aerial perspective that when you look out a plane window and you can see how things connect in a different way. One way of thinking of connectedness is that ability to get that aerial perspective and have that view of how things connect. And then be able to operationalize that information in some productive way.
Yeah, that's what I like, the relationship between your connectedness and your input. I think there is that higher perspective of connectedness, but I think of input as more almost tangible, more practical. It's stuff, it's resources, it's tools, it's tangible information. And so I like it. I like thinking about how those two work together. I don't know, as you think about your other themes, how do some of your other themes kind of help you express or regulate your connectedness?
Well, not in my top 5, but right there at number 6 is strategic. And I have found that what I've done with my own ship of my dominant talent themes, I have put my achiever in the captain's chair. And my achiever is making sure we're getting this boat going somewhere productive. The strategic is the navigator, and I've subordinated these other themes. So I call on that connectedness to help us get where we're going. So I don't let the connectedness just drive everything, or there are so many multiplicities that I might not get to a destination.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect description of how you've used it. Those other themes have made your connectedness even more productive, it sounds like, in certain settings.
Right. So in other words, if a connection that I see is not necessarily going to have strategic significance, I don't necessarily inject it into the conversation.
Yeah.
I may see it, but I filter it out.
Yeah, it's all about timing to some degree. I mean, I think that's the way it is with all themes. That's the regulating part. When is the best time to share this perspective, and how do I kind of make that work? Mm-hmm. One of the things that I like to think about with people, I have this saying that I say, when people are kind of living their strengths, they're more powerful, they're more joyful, they're more beautiful, they're more hopeful. How does connectedness make you powerful?
To get to the heart of it, Kurt, I am hardwired to care about purpose. I am just absolutely hardwired to care about purpose. Somewhere in my 20s, I became kind of the de facto obituary writer for my circle of people. And, because there would be this, how do you sum up a human life? But there was this ability in me to be able to see what purpose that life had served and what were the patterns in that story and what legacy did that people leave to the world. And so what is so wonderful for me to be able to work with people as they're living their lives is to help them write the life that they want to write and use the patterns that they have and claim that purpose that they have. You see, I get very excited about it, helping organizations do that. And I love working with leaders because a leader has the ability to help move an entire amassed potential of people towards something that can contribute.
Yeah, I think there's something very powerful about purpose and knowing purpose and being clear about purpose. So that's obviously very powerful. How about joyful? How does your connectedness make you? You seem to be a joyful person. Does connectedness play any role in your joy?
Oh, yes. And one of the things, I'd be curious if you found this, Kurt, because you've worked with so many people. But one of the things that I find with a lot of us who have connectedness is we love nature. And we get our joy on when we get our fix of nature. I don't know if you relate to that.
I think that's probably true. Environmental, there is an environment. I've seen people who are interested in ecology and environmental issues. Mm-hmm. It's about the world. Obviously, the natural world is a part of the world. There's the supernatural, there's the natural.
But so being in nature is a very joyful thing for me, but that sense of connection to the world that exists around me, but then that ability to do the most significant work of all, which is talk with one person at a time on a very deep level about what their life is really about and what they want to try to do with this one most precious gift of life. I'll share something personal here. Where I happen to be in this office today is near the campus of the University of California at Davis. And my brother-in-law was a brilliant scientist, and he died at 38 of leukemia. And, when you lose people who die young, you just realize life is so precious. And we need to make the most of the time that we have and make sure that we're doing the thing that's going to do the most good and make us the most happy. And those are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Jim, how are we doing with any questions kind of bubbling up out in the chat world?
We've had quite a few jump in. So Maureen, she's always the first to get her question in. So Maureen, she knows the routine. The earlier you get it in the program, the more likely you are to be first. And so she said, I'd be curious if Mary Sue's input feeds her connectedness or maybe vice versa. And then part two, how does ideation play into that role? So which one feeds each other, or do they? And then how does ideation play in?
I would say they all intensify one another and really give me reason to need regulation. Ideation is limitless. I can spin ideas and be energized by ideas. And of course, with input and ideation, I collect ideas. And I see the connections between all the ideas. So they give me good horsepower, but they also need regulation.
That's why Achiever's in the driver's seat, right?
That's right. That's right.
As a follow-up, Maureen asked, where's individualization in your 34?
It's high.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I think that's another kind of interesting dynamic. It's the whole of humanity, the bigger picture of humanity, but it's also the person, and that's a great combination. It seems almost paradoxical, but I think, as I often say, I think these paradoxical pairs are kind of the source of genius sometimes. So,
well, I would say if we look at individualization and connectedness, no one of us can be everything. but together we can do great things. And so by really appreciating the uniqueness of the individual and what they can contribute uniquely, then together, if everyone is contributing out of what they do best, we can do something terrific together. So I think it's so important to really hear what somebody loves to do and then find a way to have that work in collaboration with what other people love to do.
Yeah.
So Derek asked this question: how often does Mary Sue get the most out of her? I'm sorry. How does Mary Sue, not how often, but how does Mary Sue get the most out of her connectedness as a relationship building theme, being surrounded by strategic thinkers for most of their other themes?
I think that the fact that I can connect with a diversity of people easily, that's how we open the door. And then we're able to access kind of the library that comes with the strategic thinking themes and that kind of the thinking horsepower. But the relationship building aspect of connectedness is what creates that trust. It creates the human to human bridge that allows us then to do the mind meld of the thinking.
You know, I think also just observing you the brief time that I got to when we were in D.C., I could tell that you really valued people. And I think when people feel like they are valued, they're more apt to have a relationship with someone. So I think that value for humanity is part of why this is a relationship building theme.
And I think for those of us who have connectedness, it takes us that long to find something that we have in common with another person. We go quickly to the common ground, and so there's immediately a connection.
Yeah, and I think statistically this theme falls into that relationship building theme in the research that we did, and I can see that conceptually that works. But I also think conceptually this could fit. This is a bit of a thinking theme as well. I mean, it's when we talk about a perspective, it's about seeing and understanding, and so there is a real conceptual part to this theme as well, even though it's statistically placed in that particular domain.
I agree with that, and when I was practicing law, there was a particular instance in which my ability to see connections from seemingly unconnected areas of the law resulted in a good benefit for the clients that I served, because I saw that there could potentially be a connection with something that could create a problem for our whole statewide community of clients. And because I was able to spot that and kind of fend it off, we were able to bring about a good result. I won't get into the weeds about the details of it, but it was very helpful to be able to bridge information that was coming out of one silo, see how it could connect over here so that we could take care of what the outcome of that could have been.
Yeah, that's great.
I think people with connectedness ask great questions because they're good. They're trying to get to the heart of the matter. They're trying to put things together, and so they've devised a group of questions that they ask people to get to that. And as a person who likes sharing those things, I love talking to people. I mean, Mary Sue, we just met today, right? I mean, I have not met you before, and yet I felt at ease from the very first moment you came on, and you were interested. You wanted to get some questions out of me to put some pieces together, right? And so I think from a coaching standpoint, when we think of the relationship building theme, I think that's critical, and to see that, to be able to, for people like me to be able to take advantage of that in people like you, to know that, man, I bet you've got a list of great questions that you go through. Do you have those? Do you have them cataloged or written down somewhere, or is that just an intuitive thing for you that you're able to do it?
Well, I was born asking questions, but I have tried to, because I have strategic and maximizer as well, so I've tried to build the capacity to ask even better questions. But I must say, Jim, when I was asking you questions today, that wasn't with any strategic maximizer thing. That's just how I show up. Tell me about you. How'd you get into technology? Because I'm genuinely curious. So.
Yeah, no, I think it's good, and I think it comes across very genuine. It allows people to open up, and I think if you had connectedness high, you've got that superpower of being able to get people to open up. to them, and you have an arsenal of great questions. So I just think that's so natural. That's kind of that superpower that allows you to do that. So I think that's really cool. Eugene, Kurt, this is probably for you, but we'll throw it to both of you. Eugene asked the question: do you think connectedness is stronger in cultures that are more spiritual as a whole?
I think it seems like most cultures have some kind of spirituality to them. That's kind of how I observe it. I mean, I've certainly not been all over the world, but I've been to, some parts of the world, several parts of the world, and there seems to be it's not all the same spirituality, don't get me wrong, but I think there is a fairly common spiritual thread around. But I'm guessing there might be variations of what this look like. I mean, it's interesting when I do work with kind of faith-based groups, particularly the Roman Catholic Church, to be honest. I see a lot of connectedness in groups that have a concentration of Roman Catholics. So, but I work with some other groups that are maybe not quite as faith-based. I don't see it as much. But I think this is not just tied to a kind of a narrow kind of religious view. It's a broader kind of a spiritual perspective. It's not kind of doctrinaire in nature. It's a bit broader. So that is an interesting question. I don't have the data in front of me about how much we see in different parts of the world, and I'm not exactly sure how I would define what spiritual would be exactly, but I think it's a good question.
If I might interject too, there are those who are religious, there are those who are spiritual, and there are those who might not describe themselves as either religious or spiritual, but who may manifest connectedness, but it may come as just this lens of being able to see the connection between the trees outside that give off oxygen that then we breathe, so that they may see it as a system, more like an ecosystem perspective, where they're seeing how everything connects, but they may not ascribe a spiritual connotation to it.
That's why I think connectedness may be one of have the broadest span. Maybe it's the bridge thing. It's a broad span of kind of factors that seem to that I observe in people, and I think you're absolutely right. Some people are spiritual, some are a bit more concrete, still connected. Some people are social, some people are. I think there could be mathematical connectedness. There's almost that kind of way of thinking. So. I was just thinking, Mary Sue, where you talked about nature. Where's one of your favorite places in the world to be, where you kind of feel that connection with the world and nature?
Well, I will tell you a story, just a quick story, that is about a place that's just a short walk from my house in the Phoenix metropolitan area, and there's a connectedness story there. But in the heart of the Phoenix metropolitan area is this beautiful park that has these red rocky buttes, and it is a desert park, and there's a bit of a rise up in this red rocky park area, and you can see a 360-degree panoramic view of the Valley of the Sun and the mountain ranges that surround us. And I love that. That is a place that I go for my exercise, and I can walk from my house to there. Years ago, the city of Phoenix was considering putting in a quasi-commercial establishment on this parkland that's open space. And there was some concern that this wasn't the best use of this parkland. And so they were going to build this great big facility that would have no windows, that could have actually been put anywhere, but they're going to put it on this parkland. Well, it ended up that there were many of us who didn't think it was the right location for that. There were those who were very politically conservative. There were those who were very politically liberal, everything in between. And what we did was we found the common ground. This isn't the right location for it. We didn't get into doctrinaire discussions about why we didn't think it should go there. And we were able to fight City Hall and ultimately prevail. So that kind of sanctuary of open space is within a short walk of my house. And I love that red rock and the views that are from there. But of course, Arizona is just such an incredible place for natural beauty. Sedona, the Grand Canyon, it's an incredible place for nature
Great.
Let's do one more question as we kind of bring this thing in for landing, and I'll encourage you, if you didn't get your question answered in chat, let's take it to the Facebook group. So if you head out to facebook.com/group/call-to-coach, that is our Facebook group, and we got a whole bunch of coaches out there. We can get your question answered as well. But Mary Sue, I want to ask you this question, and I kind of alluded to it a minute ago. It says, what should people do to turn this talent into a strength, right? Talent going to strength is the productive use of that talent. And so I mentioned you're great at asking questions. What else, when we talk about the superpower of connectedness, what are ways people can, if they have it high and maybe they're struggling, say, how do I use this? What are some other quick bullet points do you think that they could do, or things they should be working on where they can really bring that out?
When they see division that troubles them, find something to do to bridge that division. If it's on a global level and that concerns them, there's that bumper sticker that says, think globally, act locally. Find some way to build bridge span where you can with what you have where you are. If you're in an organization that has unnecessary division between groups, try to be that bridge builder within that group. If you have that ability to see connections between information and information, how could the connections between those be beneficial in some way? Find a way to move from just observing connections to doing something with them. That's productive, that's powerful, that's purposeful, where you are.
Kurt, from a coach's point of view, from your side, anything, if you saw somebody very high in connectedness, any advice you'd give them?
Yeah, I would just say try to put your thoughts into words. Try to kind of tell people what you see. Keep working at that, because the things that people with connectedness see are often many times invisible to other people. But don't be discouraged if they don't get it right away, and keep trying to say it in a way that's clear, and obviously helping them know your motives is to bring people together and to bring unity and to kind of create a oneness that's needed in the world.
Great. Kurt, do you want to put your wrap on this?
Sure. Yeah, I want to thank Mary Sue for taking time to do this, and I want to thank you, Mary Sue, for the bridges that you've already built and the bridges you're going to build in the future. And this is I don't think it's a coincidence that we had you on the show today, since the Super Bowl is going to be in your hometown. This is no mere accident. This is the universe demanded that we have you here. And I don't know, are you picking a winner in the Super Bowl? Are you a fan of either of these teams?
I have to say my community is the winner, because we're expecting 1 million additional people in the Valley of the Sun this weekend, and that is it helps create a rising tide that lifts the ships of our community. So we are all winners.
That was a great connectedness response. It's the entire city it's not about a couple of teams, it's about the communities. So, well, it's terrific. Thank you so much. Best wishes and the important work you do. We're proud to have you as a certified Gallup-certified coach, and thanks for your efforts and commitment to that.
Thank you.
Well, we'd like to remind everyone to take full advantages of all the resources we have available for you around these themes. Of course, you can do that at the Gallup Strengths Center. That's just found real easy, Gallup Strengths Center, all one word, GallupStrengthsCenter.com. You can send us your questions or comments as well. If you have questions after the fact, the best place, if you're a part of our community, join the Facebook group, and you can just drop the questions there. Kurt does a nice job of kind of helping me in that, and you can tag Kurt on a question if you want to do that in there as well. And you can drop those questions on our Facebook group, again, facebook.com/groups/called-to-coach, or you can email us those questions, coaching@gallup.com. You can also catch the recorded audio and video of this webcast, plus all the other ones that we've done. They're all the links you'll ever need. Trust me, coaching.gallup.com. If you haven't looked at that in a while, you should head out that way and get it done. We also have a meetup page, so we're creating meetups around the country. We have about 17 going here in the United States, plus 3 international ones. My goal is 100 this year. So if you want to help me get a StrengthsFinder meetup group going in your community, you don't have to be a coach to necessarily do it, although we'd love for the coaches in those community to help get them started. Contact me. Just let us know. Again, that coaching@gallup.com. Just put meetup in the subject line, and we'll help you get things started out there as well. I mentioned earlier in the program about the iPhone and Android app. I think I've talked about strengths all day, so maybe that was in another meeting. We have Android and iPhone apps available for you. One of the best ways to remember your strengths is to review them every single day. The apps are free. You can download them, log in with the account that you use to take the assessment. My recommendation is once you get in, take a screenshot of your top 5 and then make that your lock screen. That way, every time you have to do your phone. So the millennials check their phone 63 times a day on average. 63 times you would see your strengths when you go to unlock your phone to check Facebook. So make that part of your lock screen. It's a great way to remember them. We also know people remember 4 and not 5, and so it's a good way to remember the 5th one as well. Make that a part of your everyday. Here at Gallup, we post them on the walls, but if you don't do that at work, maybe you can have that on your phone, and it will remind you every single day. We want to say thanks for coming out. If you found this webcast helpful, we'd ask that you share it, and there's all kinds of ways to do that as well, and we appreciate you doing that. We'll be back in, actually, and we'll apologize for this, in another month for the next Theme Thursday. The 12th didn't work out for us. Lots of things going on here at Gallup, and it didn't work in Kurt's schedule. We couldn't get it rescheduled. But we'll try and speed up the cadence a little bit maybe as we get into the summer with these and get them done. And we're excited about all the new stuff Kurt has coming as well. We have some new exciting stuff around some book stuff coming, don't we?
Yeah. Yes, we do. Yeah, we got a new book coming out here. So
we do. Do you have a date on that?
I don't. I think it's
summer,
late
right?
February, March is what I heard. But
okay, late spring. We got a brand new book coming out. So, and trust me, you're gonna like it. And so, I'll keep you up to date. If you're on the Facebook page, as soon as I have dates, we'll let you know as well. And with that, we want to say goodbye, everybody.